So it is hot here in Georgia today and in this shop. Hot. Today I'm going to replace the master brake cylinder on my bike. I noticed that it started leaking through the sight glass, so I got another one online and we're going to put it on. If you possibly can see, it's old as hell anyway, so it's leaking from right here, the sight glass. You can't even see through the sight glass anymore. It's useless. And it's a little squishy, actually. So we're going to be replacing this today. But I'm going to crack this bolt and catch all the fluid. I'm going to drain all the fluid. So I've got this bucket to just catch the shenanigans. It is hot, warm. If you hear any weird ruckus in the middle of this video, I apologize. Where this shed that I'm in, or this shop that I'm in, the skylights are made of plastic and they rustle with the wind. So, what I'm essentially going to be doing, because I have to replace the master cylinder, is I'm just going to go ahead and flush the brake system and get new fluid in there. So what I've jimmy rigged, you may or may not have seen before. This is the bleeder valve on the bike. Right here. So I've got this open or closed end side of the wrench that I'm going to put right there. And you would take just a little bit of like aquarium line for your bubble maker or your filter, whatever, and then that will fit on one end. You kind of have to coerce it. It's not really going to want to on its own. But you get the other end and you have it go into just a plain Jane, whatever you want, kind of container. And the bottom of the container is clean brake fluid. The reason that we're doing this is as we pump through the line, we're going to open and close this bleeder valve so that we don't suck air back up into the line. So with this being down in there, as we pump it, if it does suck anything back up, it's just going to suck up clean brake fluid. Brake fluid should be changed every 2 years. That's whether or not you're talking about a bike or you're talking about a car. I don't know the exact terminology, but I know the science behind it, and I'll try and explain it to you best I can. So, essentially, brake fluid is I don't know, blah, blah, blah. It means that it absorbs water from its atmosphere. So, with myself living in Georgia, it's very humid here. That's a concern for me. So especially every 2 years, I make sure that I'm doing this regularly. So the 2-year mark, what the water can do to the system is it can ruin the hydraulic, whatever components that you have and the rubber components that are in your caliper, as well as start to erode your brake line. And the thinner that your brake line gets, the more it can't hold pressure. That's why a lot of times people will switch from a rubber brake line hose to like a threaded metal hose, because as that pressure is being applied through that hose, it's not going to expand, it stays the same size. What you should know is if you look at your brake fluid and it's black or dark gray or something of that nature, and it's not like brown, it should be like a brown, maybe even a rust color once you flush it. And new should be clear or amber, kind of yellowish. If it's black though, if you start to see that dark coloration come to it, that's actually because of the pressure and the amount of water that the fluid has accrued over time. It's actually boiling within the brake line system, and that coloration is coming out of the hose. So it's starting to deteriorate things in the brake system. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. You are more than welcome to research that more on your own time. I am not. This is a number 12 metric. be careful with getting brake fluid everywhere because it will corrode paint and whatnot. So that's pretty simple and there's no talent required. Most of the mechanics that I do, there's no talent required. Moving on to the fun part. So I've got the master cylinder put on, replaced, got the brake line tightened to it, got it full of brake fluid. Now the magic's going to happen where we have to pump the brakes and do a little bit of multitasking. I'll explain that right now. What you got to do when you're doing this is we're going to pump the brake, we're going to open the bleeder valve, pump the brake, keep it depressed until you tighten the bleeder valve again, and then you can let go of the brake. That way you're not sucking anything back up. You just open it, push fluid out, close it, and then release. And then you're gonna open it, push on the brake lever, close it, and then release the brake lever. Open it, push brake lever, close it, release brake lever. Cool? Doing this, keep an eye on your brake fluid. If we weren't replacing this and doing this like we were just flushing, replacing the brake fluid, what you would do is this exact same process, except now all we're doing is waiting until we see brake fluid come through that hose. If you were replacing your brake fluid, you would do this exact same process, except from the start, because the system is already full. Once you start pumping, you would see dirty brake fluid come through the line and into that bottle. And you would keep repeating this open, pump, close, release, open, pump, close, release kind of process until you started to see clean brake fluid running through the line. Now, as I said, it is very important for you to make sure that you're keeping an eye on the brake fluid level in the cylinder as you're doing this, because as you're pumping it through, it's going to be less and less and less and less. If you're not paying attention and it falls below the reservoir and you don't make sure you keep it topped off, then you're going to end up with air in the line, and you're going to have to do it all over again to get all that air circulated through the system and out at the end. Another good thing to note is checking if you're doing this to flush the system and you're not, aren't changing the brakes or anything like that, keep an eye on where the fluid level is. Just because it's halfway down doesn't mean that you need to make sure it's topped off. You need to fill it back to where it was. The reason is, as your brake pads wear and wear and wear and wear, it takes more and more fluid to make that piston compress enough so that the pads still meet the disc. If you overfill that reservoir by adding, trying to top it off, and then you go and change your brakes, you're going to depress the piston, all that fluid's going to run back up into the reservoir and come out of the sides. Makes sense? That's also a good way to see how your brake pads are doing. If you know that the last time you changed your brakes, you topped it off, or it was good to go when you have new brakes on there, then it should be full. If you come back to it and it's halfway down or a quarter way down, that means your brake pads are probably halfway to a quarter way worn. Alright, so again, I'm opening that, squeezing the brakes, then I'll close and release. Open, squeeze, close, release. It's super exciting. I just replaced them, so I know they're good to go. I'm just going to fill it pretty much just to the top of that sight glass. I'm really not going to overfill it any more than that anyway. Alright, so I've got this dude putting back on. This dude, put him back on. Remember, brake fluid is like corrosive, so clean up when you're done. But once I get this all back together, I'll take, and this is, you want to tighten this as you would another gasket. If you've seen in other videos, you want to tighten one bolt a little bit, and the other bolt a little bit, one bolt a little bit, the other bolt a little bit. Don't tighten one all the way and then the other one all the way, because then the gasket is going to be pushed one way and then pushed the other way, and it may warp it and it may leak. Okay, so there you go. Now you know how to change your brake fluid and change your master cylinder. The only thing that I didn't teach you how to do today was your brakes. But I'm sure the next time that I have to change brakes, I'll take you guys along for that ride too.